I just took the first page of this note of the notes and I kind of superimposed all the notes on this. Oh, I didn't give one to you. Sorry. So you don't actually have to copy anything down. Everything that is on the notes is already written down. All right, so why don't we just go ahead and review what we talked about last class. So we're all on the same page here. We started talking about angles. Angles is the first thing that we need to understand before we branch off into the subject called trigonometry. Trigonometry comes from the word triangle, so it deals with angles, especially in triangles and things like that. Now, I told you that angles have a very special form in this class. Usually they will open up to the right, okay? Sometimes they won't, but most of the times you'll see them open up to the right because we stick them in like an X and Y axis. So usually we'll stick a angle where the initial side, or the side that we always start from, is always on the positive x-axis. Okay, so that's kind of always how we do things. The terminal side is the side that we end at, so that's where the angle ends. Okay, so that would be the terminal side. We said that normally in this class, angles go counterclockwise. Okay, so we start at the initial side and we go counterclockwise to get to the terminal side. And I said that if we go counterclockwise, we call that a positive angle because when we write the number of that angle, it's going to be a positive number. Okay. You could also go you can also go clockwise by starting at the initial side and going clockwise to the terminal side. That's fine. It represents the same angle, but it's going to be a negative number instead. All right. All right, so that's pretty much all we talked about yesterday. Let's do a few examples here. So I have two angles on the top of the second page. And this angle, it's called gamma, okay? Usually when you see angles in this class, they're going to be represented using Greek letters. So you'll usually see like a funky symbol. All it represents is the angle. Okay, now the initial side is always going to be the x-axis, and we're going to go around to the terminal side. Do you think this angle is going to be positive or negative? Positive. It's going to be negative. Why is it negative? Yeah, clockwise is negative. Counterclockwise is positive. I know it doesn't seem like intuitive, like usually you think clockwise is positive because that's how the clock works. But in this class, going counterclockwise is actually positive. So this is a negative angle. Okay, because it's going clockwise. Okay, the second angle on the right, this one is definitely going counterclockwise. So I bet this is negative, right? I mean, sorry, positive. See, it even messes with my head a little bit. Positive. Okay. Now, let's talk about angle measures, right? Whenever we have an angle, we can say what it is maybe in degrees, right? So like 360 degrees, 100 degrees, something like that. And the easiest way to think about the angles on a circle, or sorry, angles on a plane, is by thinking about an angle in a circle. The reason for that is, well, the furthest this angle can go is a full circle, right? So does anyone know how many degrees there are in a circle? 360, right? There's 360 degrees in a circle. Okay. Now, if you ever forget how many degrees there are in a circle, this is really stupid, but you know that song that says did a full 180 and then they do the dance for turn around? You just do the 180 again, and then you made a full circle, and then that's 360, okay? That's how I remember it. All right, now you can go home and make fun of me. All right, so let's take a look at some of these here. So if I start at my initial side, and my terminal side is the initial side, so they're like right on top of each other, going counterclockwise around, oh God. Going counterclockwise around the circle is going to give me 360 degrees. So that's what a 360 degree angle is. Now, what we can do is we can use this information to figure out what other angles are, okay? For example, we also have a 90 degree angle, right? If our initial side is the x-axis, we go up to the y-axis. We know that's 90 degrees. I think that's more common knowledge. Let's do some more here, okay? So let's see. If I start at my initial side here we go. And I end, so my terminal side is the other negative x-axis. What do you think this angle is going to be? 180, right? And we can know that because it's half of 360. I went halfway around the circle, so I know this is going to be 180 degrees. Okay. Finally, let's do one more. We can do, let's say, this. If I start at my initial side, which is always the positive x-axis, and I go around my circle until I get to the negative y-axis, what do you think this angle is going to be? 270. How'd you get 270? Good. 360 minus 90 or 180 plus 90, right? So you can kind of piece together the quarters of 360. So this is going to be 270 degrees. Okay. These are the 4 angles that you definitely should probably know. If I was you, I would just memorize these 4 specific angles, because once you know these, you can at least approximate where the other angles are going to be. Let me think about this. For example, if I asked you to draw, let's see. If I asked you to draw something that was 100 degrees, okay, well, where do you think that would be? Okay, let me give you quadrants here. This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2. Yeah, you think quadrant 2 because, well, it's between 90 and, gosh, 180, right? So I would expect it to be, I don't know, somewhere around here, maybe closer to the y-axis. Like that, because I know 100 is somewhere between 90 and 180. Okay. All right. Let's talk about coterminal angles. We have different numbers to represent the same sort of picture, right? We have going counterclockwise and we have going clockwise, and they represent the same starting and ending point. Okay, so even though they're different angles, we can represent the same picture using like a negative value and a positive value. We call those angles that kind of create the same picture coterminal angles. Okay, so let's start with this one here. Here we have a angle. It's going clockwise, so it's definitely a negative angle. So it's negative 100 degrees. Okay, can you give me another angle that would create like a better or the same picture? And how you something positive, right? So you want to find, I think what I'm hearing is you want to find this angle, right? Any guesses on how we could get that angle? Yeah, right? There's 360 degrees in a circle. So I know if I have 100 being taken away from my 360 degrees, I know what's left is by taking 360 and subtracting off 100. Okay, I'm subtracting because my angle's negative. Okay, so whenever you're asked to find a coterminal angle, you're just going to take 360 and either like add or subtract 100 based on the angle that you want. Okay, so 360 minus 100 is 260. Okay, this angle 260 is a coterminal angle. It produces the same picture. We're just going the opposite direction. Okay. All right. If you flip your page to the next page in the packet, I want you to find a coterminal angle for negative 200. Okay, and this one's kind of quick, so I'm not going to ask anyone to write this one up. All right. So this one was negative 200. What was the coterminal angle? 160, right? Because you took 360 and you subtracted off 200. and you got 160. Okay, so that's our other coterminal angle. All right, now what I'm going to tell you is for every angle that you have, you don't just have one coterminal angle, and I'll show you why, okay? Let's say we have 90 degrees and we want to represent that in a different way, maybe using negative numbers, maybe more positive numbers, okay? I can definitely go the opposite way like this, and that leads me to the next picture, which is negative 270 degrees, okay? Now I got negative 270 by taking 360 and subtracting off 90. Oh, sorry, taking 90 and subtracting off 360, right? Okay, so that got me negative 270. So you can subtract off 360 to get different types of angles as well. Okay, well, I can even go further and I can take my 90 degrees and instead of subtract off 360, I'm gonna add 360. Okay, so that gives me 450 degrees. Okay, now this angle looks so weird because we're starting at the initial side. We're going to add 360 to get back to, oh my goodness. Okay, we're gonna start at the initial side. We added 90 to get the original angle, and then I added 360 to get this angle, okay? Now I know this angle doesn't look like an angle, it looks like a spiral, right? But 450 degrees is a valid angle and it represents just wrapping around, okay? Now, we don't just have to do that with positive numbers. We can also subtract off 360. So what I can do is I can take 90, I can subtract off 360 to get 270, right? Negative 270. And then I can subtract off 360 again to get negative 630. Okay, and what this angle is, okay, we start at the initial side, we go negative 270 to get to the y-axis, and then we wrap around 360 again to get negative 630, okay? So we can have angles that just spiral around and around and around a bunch of times and get a crazy big angle that looks like a spiral. Okay, any questions on this so far? All right, oh.
Just kind of like count how many times it touches the positive y-axis.
Yeah, so what I would do, that's a good question. So let's pretend that, okay, let's pretend I didn't know what this number was and you wanted to figure out what it was, right? And you were like, okay, I don't know how many times to subtract 360. This is what I would do, okay? First of all, I would figure out that this was negative 270 degrees based on the other picture, right? Then what I do is I would go around in a circle again. So I would go, oh, yeah. Oh, I subtracted 360 not enough. I didn't subtract it enough times. You know what? Okay, let's do this. Let's do this again. I actually did it right, but I didn't explain it very well. Okay, this is what I would do. I know that this angle is a 90-degree angle, right? Okay, now in order to figure out what it is counterclockwise, the first thing I would do is subtract 360. And I know that that would be negative 270, right? Okay, once I'm here, I know that I haven't completed my angle because there's still more blue spiral to fill in. So I would subtract 360 again. And then I'd fill in my picture again by going 360 degrees around the circle. And then I finally like completed the spiral. Does that make more sense? Yeah. And then that would give me, well, whatever number that is, negative 630. Now, I probably won't ask you to draw like any big angles. I definitely want you to know how to draw like negative and positive angles between 0 and 360, but I probably won't ask you anything crazy like negative 630 or 1,000 or something like that. Okay. Let's continue on. Let's flip our page over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry.
You're good. All right, flipping over. since we don't just have to find coterminal angle or one coterminal angle, we can be asked to find multiple different coterminal angles. This is an example of something I would ask you, something like on a test or quiz, or even on WebAssign, okay? Let's start with this one. We have our angle theta, and it equals 60 degrees, and it's in standard position. What this means is it just means that on the x-axis, like the initial side is on the positive x-axis, the terminal side is somewhere else, right? And this is what standard position means, okay? This question is asking us to find two positive angles that are coterminal with theta, and also to find two negative angles that are coterminal with theta, okay? For the positive ones, what do you think I should do? Yeah, add 360, right? I can take 60, add 360, and that gives me 420. And then what can I do to find my second coterminal angle? Yeah, add 360 to 420, or in other words, take 60 and add 360 twice. Okay, and that gives me 780. Okay, so two angles that are coterminal with 60 degrees is 420 and 780. Okay, what do I do to find the negative angles? Subtract 360, good. So 60 minus 360 gives me negative 300. And then I can do it twice, right? 60 minus 360 minus 360 again gives me negative 660. Any questions on this one? All right, then why don't you give example 3 a shot? It's not too bad. I'll give you a few minutes to work on this and then we'll come back. All right, coming back to the front here, I think I saw some good answers that I might have gotten the first one wrong myself. What were the two angles that were coterminal, positive? 220, and what was the other one? 580, good. Everyone agree with this? Good. I must have did this wrong. I am so bad at arithmetic. I try to do stuff in my head and it just doesn't work. All right, and then what are the negative ones? And what was the other one? Negative 860, good. All right, so everyone's on the same page with this one, right? All right, let's make things a little bit harder. I think this, for some reason, is kind of hard to understand at first, but once you get it, it's like really easy to do. Drawing degrees, okay? I know this sounds very simple, but I promise you, if we don't understand this, then the trig stuff is going to be kind of crazy. So let's just go ahead and try to draw some of these. I'll do one of them first, and then I'll leave you for the other ones, okay? So in this section, we're going to approximate or just kind of randomly figure out where the degrees are on this picture. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to memorize those 4 angles that I told you to memorize. We've got 0, right? We got 90. We've got 180, 270. And then finally at the very end, 0 is also 360, right? Okay, we just went all the way around the circle, okay? If I wanted to draw 147 degrees, what quadrant would I be in? Quadrant 2, right? Because 147 is between 90 and 180, okay? Now, taking a look, it looks like 147 might be closer to 180 than 90, so I think I'm gonna draw it like here, okay? I just drew my terminal angle of the terminal side of the angle. And am I gonna go counterclockwise or clockwise? Counterclockwise, because my angle is positive. So I'm gonna draw my angle starting from the initial point, going over to the terminal side in a clockwise direction. Or sorry, in a counterclockwise direction. I'm so bad at knowing the difference between the two. All right. I'm going to give you a few minutes to try these on your own. Not too bad, but I promise you, I got a lot of questions on this last year when I didn't do this too much. So might as well overdo it, right? Come up to the front here. I do want enough time for the quiz. So as I was walking around, you guys have been doing a really good job. Let's just go over the positive ones so far. Positive ones are pretty easy to draw, right? So the first one, I don't even remember who wrote that one up. Who wrote up the first one? Oh, Caitlin. Caitlin did a great job of doing this. Do you kind of want to take us through your thought process?
Yeah, so I looked at the number and I knew it was past the 270 mark, so it was closer to 270 than 360.
Mhm.
So I just drew it close enough to that area. And drew my arrow and counted clockwise as possible.
Perfect job. Nice job drawing that. And then Amara drew up the 12 degrees. Do you kind of want to take us through that one? Mhm. Perfect. Very nice. Now, just so we have enough time for the quiz, I am going to talk a little bit about how to draw the negatives. If you were a little bit shaky on drawing these in class, what I want you to think about is there's two ways you can think about this. The easiest way to me to think about how to draw negative angles is, well, you can always find a coterminal angle. If negative angles don't seem right, if drawing it backwards doesn't seem very intuitive, you can always find a coterminal angle. And you might want to find a positive coterminal angle because, well, positive angles are easier to draw. How would I find a coterminal angle? Add 360, right? So you could take the negative 32, add 360, and gosh, I have a number written here, but I don't know what it says. Is it 228? I think that's what it is. Is that true? Gosh, is it 328? Okay, good. Ugh, this is what happens when I am bad at math. All right, we got 328. Okay, so drawing 328 is a lot easier than drawing negative 32. I know that it has to be between 270 and 360. I know 328 is probably closer to 360, so I know that my angle should be here. Okay, now another way you can draw this, so I'm going to say way number 2, is what I've seen people do in my last class was being like, okay, I can read the unit or the circle like backwards. So I can start at 0, but instead of going clockwise to measure my angles, I know that this is negative 90, right? Going clockwise instead of counterclockwise. I know this is negative 180, and I know this is negative 270. Okay, so instead of subtracting, they just saw the circle in a different way. And they knew that negative 32 was between 0 and negative 90. Okay, so that's another way you can do it. I think finding a coterminal angle is just easier for me. But if you want to do it that way as well, that's okay. Now I have a negative angle. Am I going clockwise or counterclockwise? Clockwise, right? So I'm starting here and I'm going down. All right, we'll pick up on this next class, but yeah. But I think we have a quiz to go over, right? All right.